MLB opening line, June 30th, 2021. I am back. I missed Friday. I've been moving. It has been a pain to say the least, but computer setup, we're all good to go. I'm joined with Frank today. Frank, how has the week been going for you, MLB wise? Anything?
Yeah, good. We got golf in yesterday. Saw my plays up there. Really like my card. Baseball was good to me the last couple of days. Just seems to be happening, and then the weekend happens, and it's like all just goes terrible. But what is today? Wednesday. Last 2 days, up a little bit of money. Well, hopefully we'll keep that going. I think I was 3-2 yesterday. One about a unit on my side, so pretty good there. The Pirates almost getting no hits. Kai Tom adding 1 hit. I think there was 1 walk or something in there as well. I had that Pirates over when the Rockies did their part, and you're thinking, okay, well, I bet a core's over and one team gets to 8. You're probably pretty good. Turns out Herman Marquez has allowed 4 hits in 3 starts. Pretty good stuff from him. That Pirates offense has been clicking, and then they flew across the country from St. Louis to Denver and have struggled, obviously scoring 0 runs in 2 Coors Field games. Pretty tough to do. It's hard to do if you weren't trying to score, right? Like you would score by accident in Coors Field. Apparently they're not doing that, but I do still think that offense is a little bit better than what they're probably getting in a respect wise.
Yeah, Marquez is interesting because he's been great at home this year. Because who isn't better when they go to Coors? I don't know if he figured some trick out, but he has been much better. Again, we are streaming on YouTube and Twitch. YouTube is the Elite Sports Network. Hit the subscribe button there. Elite Betting on Twitch if you hit the follow button, and on a regular Periscope at Elite Wins, and Elite Fantasy HQ on Twitter. Let's hop into it. Arizona in St. Louis, first game on the board today. Kim on the mound for St. Louis against Smith, not Caleb Smith, but another Smith for Arizona. It doesn't matter. They're on the road. They're terrible on the road. So St. Louis is minus 200 total in this one, 9 slight juice to the under. Anything you're eyeing here in this one?
No, I mean, I don't really want to get involved in a Riley Smith game. I don't really want to get involved in D-backs on the road game, really. Riley Smith so far, 5.71 ERA. He's made 5 starts. He's relieved a bit in there. But the thing to know with him, he's had 12% strikeouts, which is like pretty much as low as you're going to see in Major League Baseball. Kim, I'm not sure that we've really figured out what to make of him so far in his Major League career, right? Guy came from the KBO in the 2020 season. He's had 19 starts, 2.99 ERA, but the other numbers, are a little bit elevated. Kind of expected ERA is a little bit higher than that, somewhere around the 4 area. That being said, you don't really need much to be a 200, minus 200 favorite against Arizona, against Riley Smith, who not going to miss any bats. So yeah, I do like, I do think St. Louis wins this game, but I think this number's about right, somewhere in the 200 range.
Yeah, Arizona's just putrid on the road. But yeah, Kim's interesting. He was really lucky last year. He just didn't have any strikeouts and pitched to a 2.17 BABIP and an 87% left on base percentage. That's going to keep your ERA low. This year he's come back to normal a bit, but I still think he's probably an average to above average arm, which, getting a guy from the KBO, I think that's a pretty solid that's a solid signing. But Riley Smith, he's a train wreck. Kim, obviously, big advantage here. Getting a lineup advantage as well with the Cardinals. Not shocking here to see the 200. I'm in agreement with you. I think this line's about right. So I don't have anything here. Next game, Cubs and Brewers. Brewers minus 150 total in this one, 8.5 juice to the over. Another afternoon baseball game here. Jake Arrieta takes the mound for the Cubs, where Alec Bettinger takes the mound for the Brewers. Nice Atlanta Central matchup here. Any opinion on Bettinger, as most people probably don't know much about him?
That's who it is. I'm seeing Aaron Ashby now listed, which it has
we're seeing 2 guys. So that should show you.
Changed from Bettinger to Ashby. I saw Corbin Burns at one point. I have no idea what's going on here. I'm looking at Ashby, who's listed on some of the lineup sites that I use, and he's listed on the sports book to be the starter. Who knows what's actually going on there? I really haven't followed the news. But looking at his AAA stats, Aaron Ashby has struck out a very high percentage of hitters, and he's also walked a very high percentage of hitters. So this is like the typical like young major league starter that's coming up through AAA so far. Throw the ball as hard as you can with nasty stuff and see how many guys you can strike out, and really forget about the control side. I don't know if it's a good strategy once you get into the majors. You look at the last, in low A ball, he had 11% walk rate. At high A ball, he had 11% walk rate. Now in AAA this year, we did miss last season for the minors, but in AAA's this year, 14% walks. The strikeouts are 33%. It's pretty impressive. So if you're wondering why Aaron Ashby is a mid-level favorite here, somewhere around the 145, 150 area against Jake Arrieta, one, Arrieta is horrible. And two, Ashby maybe has some strikeout potential, maybe could be decent because of that strikeout potential. You're getting the Brewers at home. Home field advantage is definitely back. I think that's something that, we need to adjust our brains to as to why those numbers are, the home teams are getting pretty decent favorites here. But Arrieta just has been so bad. And this is sort of what we expect at the beginning of the season, where he was pretty lucky. His expected ERA and things like that were pretty elevated for Arrieta, and all of a sudden it was like, boom, 5 starts in a row with like a 10 ERA, and we're starting to see the ERA now climb to 5.32. The expected ERA even higher than that 5.80, fit 5.60. So Arrieta's on the back end of it, man, and he's certainly going to give up some runs as we continue on throughout the season.
Yeah, we've seen his decline for like 5 years now, from that ridiculous season he had in Chicago back in 2015. But even then, he was still pretty good after that for a couple years. And then, 310, 353, 396, 464, 508, 532. You can see the progression here. He kind of tried to change it up and go to a more fly ball pitcher, and it's just not working out for him because he gives up almost 10% barrels and 48% hard hit rate. So, yeah, Arrieta is terrible. Note on Ashby, Bettinger, looking at his AAA stats, he does not look good. So much, I think Ashby is the better option there. But yeah, the strategy of this throw hard and hope for the best is tough because you need to figure out the walks at AAA. Tyler Glasnow, he didn't walk guys at AAA, and then he came into the majors and he struggled. It's really difficult if you're not throwing strikes at AAA because this is the zone in the MLB is so much smaller. So that is one thing to watch with Ashby.
And the hitters are so much worse. And they're,
right.
There are many guys who make it to the major leagues because they have good plate discipline.
Right.
Like that's a nice thing to have. Like Vlad Guerrero, when he came up, had incredible plate discipline for a 20-year-old or however old he was, 21. It doesn't change the fact that he hit a ridiculous amount of home runs, and now he's hitting a ridiculous amount of home runs, like we sort of expected him when he came up. But you don't really care about play discipline. Like, you want to see the potential, and that's something that you're going to learn in the majors is, hey, the zone is really small. You don't have to swing at everything. So it is a little bit easier, not only because the umpires are like, let's get the hell out of here. I'm making $75 for this game, but also because the hitters are just a lot worse.
Yeah, I think that's something to watch with Ashby. If he does get the start, like we said, there's multiple people listed. I do think it is Ashby. I think I was wrong, but I've seen Bettinger still listed at some places. But we are staying away from this one. Brewers minus 140. Even with that lineup, it's really hard to get behind Jake Arrieta in his current form. So nothing there for us. Pirates and Rockies. Chad Kuhl, who has been surprisingly really good since he came back from injury, facing off against John Gray, another guy who's kind of figured out Coors Field, if I'm remembering the splits correctly. Gray minus 156 favorite at home. Pirates just almost got no hit yesterday, so that's no shocker there. Total this one 11, juiced a little bit to the over. Like we said, we always talk about this Pirates lineup. Yesterday, Brian Reynolds got the day off, so I assume he's going to be in there again today. I saw something, just a quick note, their outfielders were hitting like 149, 197, and 243. Now, I know 243 is above average, and that was Gamble, but they had two guys in the sub Mendoza line yesterday against Marquez. So anything you like here?
Yeah, I mean, this is bad, but I do like the Pirates. I think we have to I think that comes with context, and that the Rockies have very unique home field advantage. Over the last 5 years, they're somewhere around like 6 or 7% above their, their rest of their entire record is 6 to 7% better at home over the last 5 years. If we look at the MLB, as a whole, that number is somewhere around 4 or 5%. So they do have a unique advantage for some reason playing at home, whether it's the altitude or the pitchers knowing how to pitch there or whatever it is. They do have a unique home field advantage. So I tend to sort of stay away from Rockies teams in general because this field is bullshit. But I do think having Chad Cole back off the injured list, he's been kind of an improved pitcher in a weird way. He's not really striking the people out you think he would strike out for a guy that can throw mid to upper 90s with kind of nasty stuff. But the ERA in those, last 5 starts since coming back off the injured list, 426, FIP 401. He's given up 3 barrels in those 5 starts. The hard hit rate in that span, 28.6%. So he's just kind of getting in the zone and not really, being the gas can that is usually Chad Cole. I don't want to say that like we should expect these last 5 starts because of an arbitrary injured list, stint. If we should expect these 5 starts to be an indication of the future. But I do think that perhaps there's a little bit of value on the Pirates at this big number. Putting up back-to-back zeros in Colorado, like I mentioned earlier, is obviously not great. But I think that also could influence like some movement here. Full disclosure, I didn't play this, at least not yet. John Gray is very good, and over the course of his career, he's been much better at home for some reason, like Marquez, and I don't really understand that. But for some reason, the stuff plays there. His last start against Milwaukee had 10 Ks, no walks. But starts before that, he wasn't particularly great, giving up 5, 3, 3, and 4. I don't know. I think at this big number with this Rockies lineup, like they could also just post a 0 at any time. So I'm kind of perplexed on this game, but if you're going to play anything, I think it has to be Pittsburgh up in this like plus 140 area.
Yeah, John Gray at home this year, a 257 WOBA on the road this year in a much smaller sample, 369. And you noted that the home field advantage is stronger in Colorado. They are 27-16 at home this year.
Yeah, what's the away record? 6 and something.
6-31 is their away record. 27-16. Like that's top of the like. You can't really be better than that.
It's not hard to like get there when you see like John Gray's pitching better at home. Right. Gomber has been great in cores. Herman Marquez has pitched over his career, at least over the last couple of years. I don't know his full career numbers, but at least over the last 2 or 3 years, he's pitched better at home. And I don't understand how it's possible with that.
27-16 over 162 game pace is 101, 102 wins. 6-31 on the road.
The home field advantage of every other team. Right. It's kind of nuts.
They're playing.
And I wonder if we're really not like incorporating this properly. Just
probably not. Something's weird this year. I don't know. Like this is so drastic. Again, smaller sample here, but
349 home WOBA, third best in MLB this season.
I think it's the pitching. I have to go. I'd have to dive deeper into the pitching because like having these guys that have such a like, do they know some sort of trick, like what, like because they're studying this more than anybody else, right? Because they're playing half their games in this environment. But there's something to be said.
Doesn't make sense how it could be better. Like, why is it worse on the road at an easier hitting environment? Every time
maybe they figured out how to get more break on pitches in the I don't know something. But 102 win pace at home this year for the Rockies, a 26 win pace on the road. That's how drastic there.
It's not that much of an aberration if you go back. You could go to like 2020, for example. They were 12-18 at home, 14-16 on the road. Now that's a small sample, obviously.
Yeah.
2019, they were 43-38 at home. That record at the end of the season was 71-91. They were 20 games under 500, and they were 7 games over. 5 games over at home. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, so that's, and if the market is factoring that in correctly, it kind of shows a little bit respect for Cool. I don't know if we are factoring that in because, like you said, the home field is getting weird right now because it's starting to be there because fans are in the parks. there are, like, in some places a lot of fans in the park. So there's definitely some more home field, but when it comes to Colorado, I'm not sure the fans are really, boosting it more so than just being in the environment more than we think. So, yeah, I lean Pirates with you, but it is like just to see that 27-16 versus versus the
6-31
on the road. So, yeah, Pirates aren't a great team, so maybe they can't go into the toughest environment in baseball to play. It's weird saying that in baseball. It's usually football, but we move on to Miami at Philadelphia. Holloway against Nola. Nola up to -230. Wow. Total in this one 8.5, -114. We had some movement on that Phillies number. Oh, I wrote
played this what, 10, 15 minutes ago?
We literally played this literally right before we came on. Frank and I both like the Phillies here. Why don't we dive in a little bit on why we're backing Nola and this horrid Phillies bullpen as -200 favorites?
Yeah, I had them last night. They tried to blow that one too. Got a good number there. Getting a good number again today. Unfortunately, you can't play it anymore. So I don't want to spend too much time on it. Nola's been a little bit better than his results indicated, and we're starting to see that come out more recently. And Holloway is not very good. I mean, he's had a decent season pitching out of the bullpen. I think he's in AAA right now. He hasn't really pitched more than 1 to 3 innings recently. So I think we're going to get a Miami bullpen that they've begun trading away. That wasn't good to begin with. So this number was like 185, and the circles came off, and it was like 200. So it did get hit initially at lower limits, and now it's up in the 230 area as soon as they sort of open it up. So not surprising to see this number move up. I actually made this number 235, so it being around 237, 230, depending on where you're looking, makes a lot of sense to me. If you can somehow still get a 200, go for it. I just don't think they're going to be really available anywhere now.
Yeah, in 4 AAA starts, Holloway averaged 4 innings per start. And in his starts this year, only 2, he went 3 and 3 2/3. So I can't imagine you're getting much more than 4. They might try to stretch him just because, like we said, they just traded Simber to the Blue Jays yesterday. That bullpen, like Frank said, not very good. It's getting thinner. So even if they do, like, this is one of those games where, from a narrative standpoint, just, there is a numbers edge. That's why we played it. But now, even if they do stretch Holloway, you're probably getting a worse pitcher in the game for longer.
Right.
If they have to pull him early, that probably means the Phillies scored some runs. So there's a lot of ways to look at this. That you're getting a good thing. But like you said, we bet this literally at 950, like 955. It was right around 200 and it's shot up to 230 now. So, like I said, we don't want to spend too much time on it because it is unplayable at this point. But if it does get bumped back down, or if you do, have a number out there in the low 200s, we do believe that the Phillies have the value in this one because Miami's offense is putrid. They just traded away Corey Dickerson, so maybe Miami's going to become a team that they're not going to have anybody in there that's any good. So,
do you like taking the Marlins spread live? Yeah. The moment the Phillies go to the pen, I don't know. It just depends on who's coming in. Like, Alvarado's typically pretty good. He gave up a homer, I think, yesterday, but Alvarado's typically pretty good. Neris is like, I think you could maybe get some live ops against Neris because really quickly when Neris is on, and pretty quickly when he's going to be terrible, when the splitter just isn't there and he's just throwing it over the catcher's head constantly or just straight up spiking it. When he's throwing strikes, he's almost impossible to square up because that pitch is so good. So
if you can basically look at Neris. If he's throwing strikes, don't live bet against him. He's basically unhittable. We make fun of the Phillies bullpen, but Neris, who's obviously their closer, he's a 3.34 ERA. He's been good this year. The problem is he's just very boom or bust. Right. He's either lights out or it's 3 runs. So again, if he's walking guys, he's going to have problems there. Yeah.
Okay, Bob, you have to tell me what it is, Jeff. I haven't seen haven't looked at it yet, so I'm not sure what the K prop is. If you let me know what it is, I can kind of get a read on that for you.
Yeah, so enough on that. We both like the Phillies. That number's gone out of range though. So look for that to come back down or catch a slow moving number in, and you'll be in business there. We were talking about this one before the show. Padres and Reds. Musgrove against Gutierrez. Gutierrez is a guy that we like. Jeff said 7.5. If you want to touch on that before we get into the next game.
7.5 K prop. Yeah, I mean, Nola's Ks are definitely down this year a little bit, but this Miami team strikes out a lot. As long as I'm assuming that has to be Vig to the over. I think he had like 12 in his last start. He's kind of been pretty random, but I don't mind over 7.5 if it's a lower Vig minus 110 or something like that.
Yeah, Nola, his last 5 starts, 12 strikeouts, 1 strikeout, 9 strikeouts, 7 strikeouts, 2 strikeouts.
Yeah, so he's been pretty variant. But this is a team that is going to strike out, right?
Yeah, good matchup for his strikeouts, I would agree. But yeah, like I said, Padres at Reds. 2 guys we like, Musgrove and Gutierrez. Padres minus 180 favorites on the road. Total in this one, this is what we were talking about for the show, is 10. We were talking maybe something about we're just assuming that all pitchers are using sticky stuff and they're going to be bad. This number, I know Cincinnati plays small park, but his number for 2 good arms seems pretty high.
Yeah, Great American Small Park. I mean, I'm looking at Musgrove over the course of June. He was pretty good. He allowed 7 runs in 4 starts, 2.22 ERA, 3.09 FIP on the season. I think we'll both agree he's not a 2.22 pitcher. Vladimir Gutierrez, though, and this is sort of why I like the under. I think he's pretty good. He just needs to work out the walks. And he kind of has great stuff. If I watch him, his stuff really reminds me of Sonny Gray in a way. So I did play under 10. I was looking at the weather. It's not going to be as hot and humid out here in the Northeast today as it was. There's some rain chances. But I do like under 10 here in Cincinnati, with just the fact that Musgrove is probably going to continue to throw well. Like, I'm not seeing any indication that he has some like steep drop off like we've seen in some other guys. And I like Gutierrez. I think he's a lot better. You look at his projections, 5'11", like he's just not a 5'11" pitcher. I can just watch him throw 1 inning and tell you he's not a 5'11" pitcher. This stuff is really good. If he gets in the zone a little bit more, the strikeouts come up, the walks will come down. But he's got a nice little slider, a good little curveball. His changeup moves a lot, and it's kind of evident in the fact that he has a 29% hard hit rate. I know the Padres might score some runs here, but 7-2 gets us home in this game. So I don't mind taking some under here in Cincinnati and Padres.
Yeah, I lean that way as well. I agree. Gutierrez is not a 5'11", which is his best projection by the public.
Yeah, right.
By the way, he Zips has him as a 5.75. Across he threw at high A, double A, and triple A. He has a decent sample there. The strikeouts and walk numbers aren't terrible. I think he is a guy that has an interesting batted ball profile. He's given up 10.6% barrels so far this year, but he's only getting hard hit on 29.8. Right. So he's a guy, I guess, when he's giving up good contact, it is going, at the optimal level there. But 10.9% home run to fly ball rate. I don't know if he's figuring out a way to limit that. I don't know. We'll see. But I agree with you. I think he's much better than what the public projection systems are giving him credit for. Probably some value at Cincy if you do think that this under is there, you probably have, but value on Cincy, but I think the under is the safer play, just because the Padres are the Padres and Musgrove is really good as well. So, I agree with you. I think Gutierrez is definitely much better than what the public projection systems are giving him credit for.
Yeah, and I mean he did pitch against the Padres 2 starts ago. Was his worst start. He gave up 5 earned, but he gave up 3 earned or less in all of his other starts, and he's been pretty consistent. He's pitched at least 5 innings every start. Yeah. So, that Padres game he went 5, gave up 5. I don't really remember the game, but I think I watched him against maybe it was Milwaukee when they were in Cincinnati. I think it was Milwaukee, and I think I was messaging you being like, this kid should be really good. He just needs to get in the zone. He does live down in the zone, which is, I think, a better it's becoming the better way to pitch again, I think, with a better ball. He does live down in the zone, and he misses down a lot, which isn't necessarily a terrible thing, and that's maybe why the hard hit rate is so low.
Yeah, I think I think that was against like Brad Anderson or something. I think it was on the Reds that day, if I remember correctly. Yeah. But you said the Padres start in San Diego. He did give up 8 hits in 5 innings, but he also walked 4. So that is the key for him. If he can limit those walks and kind of keep the hard hit rate down, he's definitely going to be a guy to watch for the Cincinnati team as we get into the summer here. Next game on the board, Mets and Braves. Braves currently minus 155. Total this one's 9. Max Fried again getting some love from the market. You know, this opened in the mid minus 140s. Yeah. I don't know if people need to basically throw out his first, what was it, 2 or 3 starts?
Three starts.
Yeah, 3 starts, and then he went on. He had some injury and just kind of figured it out, worked whatever it was. Something was wrong for those first 3 starts, but he's been very good since. He's going up against David Peterson for the Mets. Minus 155 at home. Do we think that's about right for this matchup, or what do we?
Well, it was in the 140s, and I was going to play it. Then it went to 116. Now it's trending back down. So I may add this at some point today. I will say that there was nothing wrong with Max Fried. He had BABIPs of 438, 700, and 462 in those 3 starts. And if I'm remembering, in 3 total barrels in those 3 starts, and not many hard hits. So he looked like Max Fried. He was just incredibly unlucky in that span. Now, he hasn't been as sort of dominant as what we saw in the 2020 season. I don't think that's surprising, right? 2.25 ERA, and he only made 11 starts. He's already made 11 starts this year and went on the injured list, right? So I think Max Fried is pretty good. I think he's a pretty talented pitcher, and I think that's evident in the fact that if you sort of, again, arbitrary endpoints, I don't know if this is the proper way to sort of go about this, but since he's come back, that was what, May 8th, 7 starts, 2.59 ERA, 3.24 FIP. I think that's much closer to what he is in that time span. Now he's given up 8 barrels, which is a decent amount, but 28.9% hard hit rate. Pretty low. That's generally what we see from Max Fried. So this number is starting to trend back down. Looks like minus 151 at Pinnacle. Decent chance I end up adding this at some point, based on the fact that Peterson just isn't any good, and he gets steamed every game, and I don't really understand it. He's a 4.95 ERA. He's got a 4.29 career, 5.26 expected this season. That's 23 starts. That's like pretty close to a full year. And this is a guy where the projection systems, the opposite of Gutierrez, where they're like 370, 380, 390 on him. And I don't see it at all. He gets hit hard pretty frequently. He gives up a lot of barrels. 25% Ks are nice, but the walks are for his career around 11%. And as a left-handed starter in baseball, it is easier to platoon against you. Freeman's not really going to be bothered by him. They're going to have a lot of big righties in this lineup hitting against him. Albies has been on fire. I don't know, man. I think this number may be just a little bit short if it continues to trend down here.
Yeah, Peterson is interesting because I was a fan of him just watching him, and I bet him a couple times earlier, bet an under. He is the epitome of the guy who, if he gives up good contact, it goes 10 rows deep, like every single time.
Right.
Like his hard hit rate, his hard hit rate,
year, I guess
40%. Like the barrel rate's high, but like the hard hit rate, like we've seen guys with 40% hard hit rates, succeed. Like he gets 25% strikeouts. His walks are a little high, so that you'd want that number to come down. But like 22.2% home run to fly ball rate, like that's literally what's killing him. And when you're walking guys on top of that, so now you're having extra guys on base too. He's kind of like Gutierrez in a way that I think if he figures out the walks, things will get better for him. Like he is a ground ball pitcher too. It's just like literally whenever he gives up a home run or gives up good contact, it's out of the park. So I think there is like upside there. They just need to kind of figure out how to get it. I don't know, but he's basically unbettable for me at this point because it's literally, I mean, he's been good. His last 3 starts have been good. Yeah. He had a stretch. He was solid to start. his first start he was bad, but he had a good stretch and then a really bad stretch in the middle there where like he only got 1 out against Arizona. He only went 2 2/3 against Baltimore. Like you're facing some bad offenses there, and he's given up 9 runs. I don't see
this guy being a sub-4 ERA pitcher though, especially
right. I think I think people are betting on the upside, which again with a guy who's a like rookie, you know, we do this every year. We try to like, oh, he's going to be great as soon as he comes up. Like, no, like that rarely happens. So, yeah, I think if this number creeps down, I think the Braves do have value. The Braves have been stumbling. That could also be why it's a little bit short. They've been struggling lately, but like you said, it's ticked down to 151. If this does get back into like the mid like 140s, I'd be like surprised. Why? Because we saw this again, unless the, you know, big bettors are a fan of David Peterson's upside, but he just he hasn't put it together yet. I can see why you like him, but he's just not there yet. So, and like you said, Freeman's not bothered. The Braves are going to have a bunch of righties in the lineup, so they have a good matchup as well. So, Angels and Yankees, Ohtani on the mound in the Big Apple against Herman. Herman's minus 126 right now. Total in this one is 10. Ohtani, what, 2 straight games of home runs against the Yankees. Is he supposed to hit tonight? I think he is.
Probably. I don't know why he wouldn't. Right?
There's been some random games where they like don't let him hit, but he's by far their best hitter right now. So he should be in the lineup today. Ohtani, the pitcher, he's weird, man. It's kind of hard to. I bet against him. I play the Yankees at minus 127. I've been a huge Ohtani fan. I love him. He's like my favorite player right now because he's just so fun. But his pitching stats are there's some walks issues, but he's kind of figured it out. But I think this is a little inflated here for Herman, who's been pretty solid as well.
Well, not only that, but the Yankees lineup has been back, right? Like I don't think it's because of Luke Voigt, but since Luke Voigt came back, it was like boom, everyone decided to start hitting, and he is a fun guy to kind of, you know, I'm sure there's some clubhouse morale going on with him. He seems like a good clubhouse guy. I don't really have an opinion on this game. I definitely lean Yankees here. I do like Herman a lot. I think that's more of where your edge is coming from, and the fact that this lineup is just not great. Like David Fletcher is fine, right? He's a decent leadoff guy. He hits pitches at his face. But after Jared Walsh in the 4th spot in this lineup, no Mike Trout, gets pretty bleak, right? Like Ward, Iglesias, Suzuki, Juan Lagares is hitting 9th for the Angels. You know, I haven't seen him play in a long time. I don't think this lineup is very good, and Herman has been very solid. You know, the walk rate 5%, his career 7%, so it's always been pretty low. He's lost some strikeouts, 20, 21, 22%, but 36% hard hit rate. He's been very good. My question to you is, what are your thoughts on this total? I try to stay away from these Ohtani games because I never know if he's going to go 3 or 8 or throw 91 or 101. But doesn't 10 feel a little bit aggressive here?
Yeah, it's Ohtani's interesting. He's figured out the walks. Like that was his real issue early in the year. I think I went through his last start. You know, March and April, he was walking. Hold on. Sorry, the Ohtani page on Fangraphs is hard to go because it automatically goes to his hitter. I do that every single time. But he was walking 21% hitters in March and April, 14% hitters in May, but in June, just 5 while striking out 34. So I'm with you in that I think this is definitely high.
I mean, it's hot and humid, and this is, you know, plus the spin rate thing and everything that's going on. I think all these totals are going to be a little bit elevated, but this one feels especially high to me.
Yeah, like I don't know, like Herman's not like amazing or anything, but he's like the perfect guy to pitch for the Yankees. Like
and against an Eagles team that like he's just not really going to walk anyone.
Right. And like you said, the even like Fletcher's okay, right? And like obviously Ohtani and Rendon are good. Walsh, even Stasi's pretty good, but like 6 through 9 is bad. Like really, really bad. Now on the flip side, you're basically getting, I don't know if you want to call Brett Gardner can hit, I don't know, but I'd say like 7, 8 good bats in the Yankees lineup against. But if Ohtani's like Ohtani hasn't been hit all year, like, you know, it's been walks.
It is a decent matchup for Ohtani as well. Just not so really. He doesn't really have to throw many strikes if he doesn't want to.
They're an aggressive swinging team, so we'll see what happens there. But I do believe Ohtani's kind of figured out the walks, and again, he's given up more than 2 runs twice this year, at Oakland and at Texas, and one was early in the year. So again, it's tough because if he doesn't have the command, the Yankees can, like what we said with Peterson in that last game, walk guys, home run, boom, all of a sudden you give up 3 runs, and you could strike out 8 or 9 guys, but because you walked a guy or 2 in front of a home run, it's kind of the sequencing. But I don't know, like with the home field, like Herman's solid. Home field, better lineup. You getting the worst pitcher, I'll say Ohtani's better, but I don't know. -120.
It's not that much of a difference, though.
Right. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, like, is Ohtani a 2.5 pitcher, whatever his ERA is this year? Like, probably not. Is he like mid-3s? Maybe. Herman's just like around 4, maybe a little bit higher. I don't know. I think this number's short. I think the total's a little high. I agree with you there, because I do think both of these guys, with their matchups, Herman going against a weak Angels lineup, definitely the bottom half. Ohtani going against a pretty free-swinging Yankees lineup. You could see a low total here, but Yankee Stadium, hot and humid. Who knows? Yeah. It's tough to go there. Next game, Mariners at Blue Jays, Sheffield against Mats. Steven Matz in the year of 2021 is a -240 favorite at home against the Mariners. Total in this one, 10.5. Juice to the under slightly. Justice Sheffield is pretty bad, so this is why that number's that high.
Pretty bad. Pretty bad.
Right.
Yeah. 5.69 ERA, 6.30 expected, 5.50 FIP. Yeah, he's really bad. Almost 10% walks, 17% strikeouts. Matz has been much better than, what his numbers have indicated here. 3.64 expected. I was a little bit surprised that I had Matz around a -240 favorite. I was pretty close to playing Toronto here at another big number. That number has also gone. It was 227 when I clicked on here. Now that number is actually 240 now. So I guess I was right with the number, but I didn't end up playing it. I needed probably 2 or 3 cents to play that, like 224. I would have played it. That's the difference, I guess. This number did open a lot lower last night. It's gone up. Sheffield is just horrible. He's going to give up some home runs in this game. Matz has been really good. 379 FIP, like I said, 364 expected. But every now and again, old Steven Matz creeps in there where he gives up a couple taters and doesn't really strike anyone out. And I don't know what the reason for that is. But he seems like you could probably find a nice live op here. Like if Steven Matz is rolling a little bit against a bad offense. The Seattle team too against lefties. I bet him last night, not thinking they would do this, but half the lineup was left-handed against Robbie Ray, who is, traditionally pretty good against lefties. That was kind of perplexing to me. They probably going to do that again against another good lefty in Steven Matz. So, I think that's maybe even a bigger disadvantage. And like I said, Sheffield's probably going to give up some taters in this game too. So not too surprised to see this number as high as it is. Pretty tough to make a total because, Toronto can just put up 10 at any time against anybody, but especially Sheffield. So this part makes that a little bit difficult too because we don't have a ton of data on it.
Yeah, and you said about the lefties that Seattle's going to throw out there just because they're kind of forced to, because a lot of them are young guys, see what they can get out of them. On the flip side, the Blue Jays should have 9 righties in the lineup to face the lefty Sheffield. But you said Steven Matz, you get the old Steven Matz. You can kind of look at a live opportunity. If the strikeouts are not there, you could probably bet against or bet maybe the live over. He has a bunch of games where he's given up like 3 or less, but there's also a couple 5s, a 6, a 4. All of those games, except for one, he had struck out 4 or less. So if he's not getting the swing and miss pitch, he's probably going to give up, which is weird because his contact numbers aren't too bad. But again, it kind of goes with it. If you're probably not getting the swing and mitch. Wow, struggling there. I just had like a mini stroke. If you're not getting the swing and miss pitch, you're probably getting. It's probably a little easier to hit you. So, I guess I recovered from my stroke.
Swing and piss
there. But yeah, it's not shocking to see just above average pitcher against a horrible pitcher, much better lineup. They're at home if you want to give them some home field advantage because it gets tricky there. This line opened, am I seeing this correctly, in like the -180s?
Yeah, I don't know if there was a pitching change last night. I admittedly wasn't really looking, but Matz has been in there for me since last night. So
yeah, the line opened yesterday afternoon at -180. Last night at 10 p.m. they were -201. That didn't get hit until about 8 o'clock this morning. It shot up to minus.
The Phillies game opened this morning at 185. So
yeah, I think there's something with the home field and just the market's a little interesting right now because home field's starting to become more and more prevalent as we go on here. Royals at Red Sox. Mike Minor on the mound for the Royals. Martin Perez on the mound for the Red Sox. Total, Red Sox minus 154 at home. Total in this one is 11. I guess we'll go back to this total conversation real quick before we get into this game. Like, is it like I do agree? I think we're probably going a little high.
Yeah, we've gone way in the opposite direction.
Right. Like, we never saw 11s really ever. And I understand that we were in the sticky stuff, era for the last 5 years or so, whatever you want to call it. But man, 11, 10.5 in the last game. Like I feel like what game is it? Oakland game is 7, or now it got up to 8. It was 7.5 earlier. Like that's so rare now where start of the year, I was putting in 7.5. Like that was every game on the board. So do you agree there?
Are we just making every pitcher a 5 ERA pitcher now? I don't really understand.
Now I did see before you go there, I did see 60% of the pitchers that have thrown since the June 3rd thing have seen a June 3rd memo, have seen a drop of a standard deviation, was statistically significant, their change in spin rate. So was every pitcher doing it? Probably not everyone, but definitely the majority. But I don't know. I think we're going.
I do think it's important to quantify it though. 60% of the pitchers are having this big change. I don't know. There's still a lot of 3-4 games out there. Even yesterday, 3-2, 3-4. I mean, Caleb Smith and Carlos Martinez had a 3-2 game. I think we're getting a little bit aggressive. The scores are going up for sure. We're going up 2 runs. There's no way, right? I don't know that we're making everyone we're almost making everyone a 5-something pitcher, for team perspective, and it's probably closer to 4-3, 4-4, 4-5, as opposed to I think it was 4-10 or something earlier in the year was the league ERA. So I think we are going a little bit, getting there, going, in the wrong direction. It is hot and humid, but today has been probably one of the cooler days that has been up here in the Northeast, especially. The last 3 days have been absolutely miserable. Yesterday, I went outside and was just dripping sweat just from standing out there. The real feel was something like 105 or something. Yeah. It was something insane. So that being said, with this game, I agree. This total is high. I just don't think I think there's a little bit of recency bias in this, and that these teams have scored a lot of runs. I don't think this number is getting there, in all honesty. But I did play the Royals in this game at 139, which is still out there if you want it. I just think these pitchers results-wise should be a little bit flipped. I've been on, Martin Perez love affair for a while, but that is stopped because he has a 40% hard hit rate, which doesn't sound all that bad to be league average at that. But his career number is 34%, right? Which is very good. And 40% is pretty average. The barrels are at 8%. His career number is 5.5%. He's lowered the walks, but that's come at a big cost here. So he's generally just throwing more strikes, and now he's getting hit pretty hard. Expected ERA somewhere in the low 5s, 4.33 FIP, 4.09 ERA. You look at Mike Minor on the flip side. The results are a little bit unfair to him because he gave up 9 earned in his last start against Texas with 0 barrels. He gave up 0 barrels and gave up 9 earned. It's pretty unlucky no matter how you square it there. So I think Mike Minor is probably the low 4 pitcher. I think Martin Perez is probably the low 5s pitcher in this game. And I made this game up around 115, 120. So I do think that there is some value on the Royals here. I was on Boston last night. I think I was on the Royals the night before. I've pretty much bet every game in this series. So it is sort of an interesting matchup because both these teams can hit. The Royals being a little bit more variant in that regard, but you shouldn't really have much of a problem for Martin Perez, who strikes out under 20% of hitters. And when he does get hit, tends to get hit pretty hard. So, at least relative to what his career says.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Perez is we got excited about him with that Minnesota season where he gave a 4.9% barrel. He only got hit hard 29.7%, which is career best numbers there. last year, the barrels went up a little bit, but 29.2% hard hit rate. So you again, you could understand him being, better. His walks got a little out of control last year, but yeah, this year, like you said, he got to figure out the walks and even, career high strikeouts, but it's come at a cost of getting hit hard. And I don't, I don't know if it's worth it. Boston's bullpen has been fantastic. So kind of lucking out in that regard because they are at the top of the AL East, but they kind of like with Garrett Richards falling off of the earth now because he was, spin rates have dropped off dramatically in the last month. They kind of need a arm. I know they need him to kind of turn around and be that low force. Again, they're kind of like the Yankees. Their offense is good enough that you don't need for I'm saying regular season. For the playoffs, it gets a little different, but you don't need like stud pitchers left and right, and they're taking it slow with Chris Sale. So Perez is definitely a worry. And like you said, Minor has been incredibly unlucky. This year, left on base percentage of 65.7. Same thing last year, 62.9. I know small samples here, but I don't know what's going on there. Like last year, 5.56 ERA, 4.36 xERA. This year, 5.12 ERA, xERA at 4.1. So I don't know what the Royals are doing there, but got to somehow figure out not to give up hits with guys on. But 35.6% hard hit rate, 8.8% barrel with the strikeout and walk ratio. I agree with you. I think Mike Minor is the he should be the low fours guy, and Martin Perez is more of the 5 ERA guy. So I lean Royals with you, but I make it basically on market, slightly into the Royals. But see this number come down, I wouldn't be shocked. But it hasn't had too much movement. Now 11. You think 11's fine? Is that a fair number?
No, I don't. I think all these numbers are high. I don't know.
Right. It's tough. It's hard to get in there. Definitely with quantifying the bullpen. I think that's the toughest part. A lot of these guys with the sticky stuff. So I guess we kind of lean under. Frank is on the Royals at plus 139. That's still available. So grab that if you can. Minnesota at Chicago White Sox. Ober against Cease. White Sox only minus 126. Total in this one's 9 with some juice to the under. I've talked about Dylan Cease in that he has feasted on bad lineups so far this year. And when he's faced good lineups, he hasn't been as efficient. I know that's kind of, I'm picking and choosing what's a good lineup, a bad lineup. But if you go back through, when he faces good lineups is when he's got some big numbers up there, and when he faces bad lineups, he's pretty good for 3 runs or less. What do you make of this game with our Minnesota Twins that are just never going to turn it around?
Well, I mean, they're like 8-4 or something in the last 12.
I was going to say they're 7-3 in their last 10, so maybe they are.
Yeah, but. Okay, yeah, I knew it was something like that.
Yeah.
Not surprising to see this number on Cease. I think you kind of said it. He's pitched pretty bad against decent lineups, and this is a good Twins lineup, despite the fact that the bullpen and the starters have sort of given away a lot of games. Ober has been decent, he's been pretty good. I think better than what they would have expected. He's had 2 okay starts in there where he gave up 4 earned, but outside of that, 3 of the 5 starts were really good. 422 expected, 413 FIP. The strikeouts, we talked about him when he was coming up. The strikeouts in the minors were very, very, very good, and they've carried over 26%, 4% walks. That number alone is going to make him a good pitcher. Right. Even if he's, he'll be an above average pitcher if he just continues to strike out the walks, because you're only going to get hit so hard, right? Like, especially if your stuff is good enough to create 26% strikeouts when you're throwing that many strikes. Yeah. And then you look at the barrel rate and the hard hit rate, 6% barrels, 37% hard hit. This guy has all the makings to be a pretty good pitcher, despite, what the 5 starts say from an ERA or even expected ERA or even FIP wise, right? Because those numbers need some time to stabilize. Strikeout rate and walk rate probably less so, right? Those can stabilize in like 20 innings. So, I do think that, which is what he's thrown, 21%. I do think that that's a factor. The other factor, touched on here, White Sox pitchers, Giolito and Cease spin rates are down. Giolito's way down, Cease is down. And you saw it in the Pirates start. He gave up 1 earned, and he should have given up probably 4 or 5. Yeah. I watched that game. It was a day game. I think I was on the Pirates in that game for some reason, and I'm pretty certain they lost in that game. But he gave up 7 hits to a Pirates team that I think we both agree that their lineup is a little bit underrated at the top, but it's pretty bad at the bottom. And he was struggling. He was struggling to throw strikes. He was getting hit when he was in the zone. So yeah, I don't know. There could be some spin rate issues. The strikeouts have been variant, but pretty okay for Cease. They've been really high this season compared to other seasons. We'll see, but I do think the reason that the steam has come in is one, the spin rates for the White Sox. The White Sox lineup is regressing a little bit. The Twins are turning it on, right? This is the Twins team we thought we had, and I think Bailey Ober is pretty damn good, and I think that's what the market is seeing here is that, wow, this guy can kind of throw a little bit. Maybe we should start backing him now. And I sort of agree with it. I think this number's about right.
Yeah. It's interesting because Ober doesn't throw long. Like he probably won't go, I'd say, more than 5. I don't know if that's just their overall plan with him. The most he's gone this year is 5 against Houston. So I think that's kind of their goal is just get 4 or 5 innings out of him. I will say his second time through the order, again, super small sample here, is much worse. 259 Woba through the first time, 416 through the second, and he's only thrown an inning in 2/3 the third time through, and his Woba's 541. So I'm not faulting the Twins for this. Like, credit to them that they know that, like, he's, can get through twice, essentially. Like, they're not forcing it. Because this would be a guy, obviously he has some stuff. I'm just looking at his Fangraphs page. He's 6'9", 260. But a lot of times I feel like this is a better strategy for some guys. Like, he has stuff. Like, let's just get him through what we know he can do. We kind of talked about this with the Gaussman for the Giants, and they basically were just like, yo, stop throwing your slider and changeup. They suck. Like, your fastball and splitter are good. Just throw them all the time. And now Gaussman's one of the best pitchers in the game. So credit to the Twins here. But yeah, Cease, I don't know how to find the spin rate by game on Savant because I've just had Dream do that for me like every day because Dream just finds them so quickly.
For those watching, you can go to a picture here and I'll try to do it live. My computer might glitch a little bit, but you can go to Cease, and then if you scroll like halfway down, there's a little graph there. Right, I think it's first set to like pitch percent or something. You can change that to spin rate and then select by game and then select by season, and like you just got to do all the filters at the bottom.
I was trying to look for spin rate and I couldn't find it, and I didn't feel like spending too much time on it. But
it's like the fourth one down. It's like the fourth one down, so you can click through that. So
average. I was looking for spin rate. Got it.
And then if you separate out by game, you can sort of see he peaked earlier this year in May. Four-seam velocity or four-seam spin rate around 2,700 RPMs. His last start was 2,300. So that may not sound like a lot, but when you look at the the distribution of Woba against a 2,300 spin rate fastball in a 2,700 one, it's pretty drastic.
Yeah, so I think that's why we're seeing this number be short. Obviously, with Ober being good as well, or I guess you could. I'm not saying short, but assuming it looks short because Cease has been good so far this year. Yeah, we'll see. Josh Donaldson took Giolito deep last night, was talking trash to him. And
if you look at pretty much every one of Giolito somewhere in like 400 RPMs down on every pitch, and Cease is like 300 down on every pitch.
And it's interesting because Giolito had that random spike, and they said it was change of arm angle. Because
I'm sure it helped.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. Yeah. He was really bad, and then he's really good. And the guy that changed his pitching coach in like the offseason is now the White Sox pitching coach. So I don't want to make any accusations there, but it's interesting. But I got nothing here. Total in this one, I'm surprised a little bit with both offenses, and if we're assuming Cease is a little weird and Minnesota, like Ober's not going to go deep. Only 9? Like I'm not saying it's. I think that's I think it's I have a slight lean to the over there, but I don't know. I expected this one maybe to be 9.5 with what we're seeing. Definitely gets a guy like where the White Sox are getting this kind of like everybody's thinking that they're, cheating, I guess, if you will. So a little shocking there. For me.
Chance of rain in that game as well. Yeah. Maybe that plays a little bit of a factor. In the White Sox lineup is even more dinged up. Moncada might not pitch or might not play today. Abreu's been in and out. So, that lineup's getting a little bit dicey when you get down to the bottom there.
Yeah. Baltimore to Houston, I don't think we'll spend too much time on this game. Matt Harvey is going on the mound for them. He stinks. Luis Garcia has been pretty good for Houston. That's why we're seeing Houston minus 277. Total in this one, 9.5, juice towards the under. Any edge here, laying the big number, or just writing this off because Harvey's just bad and this is a huge number to lay?
Yeah, I'm not going to lay any number at any player at this price. Certainly not Luis Garcia. He has been very good. I'm not saying it like that. His career 14 starts, 2.84 ERA, pretty damn good. And Houston's done a lot with your Urquidy and all these guys that probably none of you watching this really know unless you're in Houston or watch a lot of Houston games. You guys probably don't know much about Urquidy and Luis Garcia and some of these guys. So they've gotten a lot out of these guys. That's why they're so good. And, add in the fact that, the guys top of their lineup are absolutely bopping. But yeah, Harvey's terrible and the Orioles are terrible. And I just really don't have any interest in playing in this game at all. What's this total? This is probably a high one too with Harvey.
9.5.
9.5 juice the under. I don't know, of all games not to be like 10. I guess it's just because Garcia is probably going to shut them down. So, that park plays pretty small as well. I don't know. I'm not going to play this game.
Houston's team total 5.5 minus 120 to the over. I imagine that number is going to go up as the day goes on, just because Matt Harvey is just complete trash. But yeah, nothing here for me. The number's too large. Luis Garcia, even though he's been good, small sample, just echoing what you've said. The only thing that would maybe interest me would be Houston team total at 5.5 with minus, although they just got hit down to 271 Houston. 5.5, a little bit minus 120. That seems a little bit short for me against Matt Harvey. So that's it. I'm sure Dream might be on Houston team total. He was on their team total yesterday, and they somehow didn't score in that bullpen game.
Yeah, if you have a number, okay, 3.5, juice heavy under. Yeah, that Houston lineup just doesn't really strike out, and you have to add in the fact that, sorry, I'll put this comment up again just because I gassed it pretty quick. Harvey under strikeouts, worth a look at the Astros lineup. Yeah, over the last 3 years, the Astros have struck out like pretty much the least out of baseball. 3.5, juiced heavy under. I'm not sure if you tell me what the VIG is, I don't know if that means like 140 or 170 or something. Yeah. But pretty decent chance to stay under that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 out of his last 4 starts, he's gone over that number in 4.1 innings. I would be surprised if he got 4.1 innings today. I would be kind of surprised if he got into the 5th. So yeah, I don't mind. I probably don't mind the under at minus 150. Yeah, some of that value is going to be chewed up from the beginning of the season where he was getting more run and was getting like 5 or 6 strikeouts to start, and we were like, oh, well, maybe Matt Harvey's not that bad. Turns out he is that bad. He's definitely going to give up some runs. He's going to give them up pretty quickly.
Yeah, Matt Harvey is. He was interesting to start the year because, like, I think at one point, like, his FIP was like low 4s, and you were kind of like, okay, maybe he's figuring it out. He was talking about the Baltimore actually teaching him how to pitch, but yeah, it's gone exactly how we kind of expected it to at this point. So, last 9-inning game on the board, or no, sorry, I have 2 left. 2 games left. Texas at Oakland. Allard against Bassett. Bassett minus 183. Total in this one 8. Allard has been great so far this year. If you want to touch a little bit more on him, he's been fantastic to start the year for Texas.
Yeah, low walk rate. I mean, this is kind of exciting for them. Younger guy, 23, 24% strikeouts, which is about league average. It's probably above league average now because it certainly has to be coming down. But 5% walks, that's pretty damn good. 7% barrels below average. 37% hard hit rate, also well below average, which are all good things for Colby Allard. Now, Bassett has been a guy that I've loved. I think, unfortunately, though, the market has caught up with him and then some. I messaged you last night and told you I like Texas in this game, but that number got hit down from around 180 last night down to 167, depending on where you're looking now. 165, 167. So, I think Allard is pretty good. I don't think he's quite as good as Chris Bassett. Given his stuff, 5% barrels, 33% hard hit rate. And we've talked about him too, where he's raised his strikeout rate and dropped his walk rate, which is hard to do. So I do think that there's a little bit of value on Texas, but I would have liked it more at 175 than 165.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I don't. This was minus 197 when we started. So there has been some Texas money. I agree.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I agree that this number was a little high. I was all over Bassett last year. I was all over him at the beginning of this year. Like you said, market has cut up, and I did bet against him a couple starts ago. So I do agree. I think market's starting to get a little too ambitious on him. And these Texas starters are kind of interesting. Like, I don't know what they have going on, but they've kind of figured out something. I don't know if it's anything, but it makes me think about if it's possibly something that Texas has figured out with some of these arms.
Kind of like the Giants, right? Like we saw the Giants do this, and they keep acquiring talent, and then boom, a year or two later, they look really good. So maybe that's something to watch out for Texas.
Yeah. Gibson, Howard, obviously he's a young guy. Even Dane Dunning has shown some promise.
They revitalized Lance Lynn's career.
Right, yeah, Lance Lynn
actually made him the best Lance Lynn that's ever gone. Right. So
there's definitely something interesting going on in Texas with that organization and how they deal with their pitchers. So it'll be interesting to see that growth. Last full game on the board: Rays at Nationals. Rasmussen against Leicester. Leicester a short dog at home. Rasmussen minus 120 on the road. Total this one 9.5.
In Rasmussen is opening, and then it'll be Waka, which is probably worse than Leicester,
which is like an opener in himself. Waka,
yeah. So he has opened some this year, which doesn't make sense because he's terrible and he wasn't really very efficient out of the bullpen either. If you were betting this, my issue with this game is I do think there's value on Leicester, which is crazy to say, and I do think Leicester's better than Waka. I just don't know what I'm getting in a Rasmussen. Like if he's going to chew up 2 innings of Michael Walker's side, it's probably pretty valuable, like he's not guaranteed to face the top of the order right off the bat for Washington. And then you give him maybe the bottom half of that order. And that's a lot easier start because the top of that Washington offense, Kyle Schwarber's putting together the best hitting performance we've ever seen to this point. It's at least like tied for the Barry Bonds home run season there and whatever that was, 2004.
16 in 18 games or something like that.
16 homers in 18 games, coming from the leadoff spot, and you kind of let Walker avoid that. I don't mind. That's probably
right.
It's probably they're like we can't let Walker give up a home run to Schwarber in this game. So I would imagine Walker is going to pitch to the bottom half of that order whenever that comes up to get him kind of introduced in. You get the pitcher spot, which is great playing in Washington. So and Leicester can't hit at all. So give them like those guys. Give them those guys at the bottom of that Washington lineup that aren't nearly as good. But top of the Washington lineup's quite good. So let him avoid that. But if Rasmussen's going to give him 2, it kind of chews away from, I think, the value that could be with Washington in this game. Because I do think if this was just straight up Leicester versus Waka, I think this number would be better. I think Leicester should have been a small favorite, even because of the home field and everything going on there. But with they also the other thing I didn't think about that would hypothetically create value for them is if they let Rasmussen go until he had to hit.
Right.
That would be an interesting way to do that because you would basically you'd fill the pitcher spot and then you could let Walker go through until he had to hit. So you could kind of almost get rid of the pitcher spot hitting, which is a huge advantage, especially to a bad pitcher like Leicester, where they could put 2 pinch hitters. I'm just thinking about this. I'm going to watch this game to see if they do that because that's an interesting strategy for AL teams playing in the NL that would give them a big advantage that the NL team wouldn't have.
It's interesting with Waka too because like he started as a regular starter to start the year and it didn't really go that well. So they've made him like this kind of opener thing, and then the last 2 starts they've kind of tried to make him back into a starter again.
Yeah, now he has his own opener.
Right. So now they're going to do this piggyback thing, which I don't know. The Rays, again, they tend to be right more than they're wrong. So I'll kind of take their word for it, try to figure this out. And it could be something like this, like you said, if Rasmussen can get through, 2 times, if the Rays don't hit, then, so be it. And maybe
Yeah,
walking.
it doesn't take much against. It doesn't take much against Lester to get to the pitcher spot. So he may only have to go 2 innings. And even at that, he could go. Well, no, that wouldn't work because then he would have to pitch the top. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he went 2 innings or so and they got to his spot. They would almost certainly pinch hit for him.
Yeah, and
then they could do the same thing with Waka and get him, 2 or 3 innings and then pull him out and get someone else. And so, especially against Lester, a bad opposing pitcher, it's really not that bad of an idea if you're like, hey, let's see if we can get to that spot in the 2nd inning. Yeah.
And with that being said, I have no feel in this game because I have no idea what the Rays are going to do, and we're staying away from it. Detroit and Cleveland, they have a doubleheader. I don't know if you have any notes you want to touch on them. I don't really get too involved because doubleheaders, same thing. I don't know what.
I don't even know who's pitching. So
right, yeah, it's tough. Both Cleveland's big favorites in both ones, but we are staying away from those. All right, best bets. What do you want to throw out there for your best bet for today?
Oh, geez, I wasn't even freaking ready for this. What the hell did I play? Phillies, that's gone. Cincinnati under, that was a small edge. I made that game about 9.2. It was 10 juiced a little bit to the under. So I'm going to go KC, I guess. I think that's the only one that I feel pretty strongly about. Plus 139, I think I had in that game.
Yeah. I only have 2 plays, and one was the Phillies, which that number is gone. Starting to creep down a little bit. Maybe you can buy back in if you were able to miss that number. But I got to go Yankees. Minus 127. That's still out there against Ohtani. Like we said, that is a good matchup for Ohtani, but it's also a good matchup for Herman. So maybe under there at 10 is something else you want to look at if you don't want to fade Ohtani there. So any final notes from you for today's slate?
No, I think the bottom of the screen says it. Check us out on YouTube. Subscribe. You'll get a notification when we go live. Obviously, you can turn alerts on for the Elite Fantasy and the Elite Alerts handle. You can see when we post plays and also when we go live on Periscope. Periscope's easy for you. Just note on YouTube, you can go audio only if you want. And of course, any comments are appreciated. We'll go through them as much as we can. We got a couple K-prop questions today. That's good. Just generally include the number so we can kind of get an idea on where it is because, those K-props can be even like two strikeouts off depending on what book you're looking at. So you can also subscribe on Twitch if you're, on there throughout the day, watching whatever. You can watch us there as well.
Yep, and all 3, Periscope, Twitch, and YouTube. If you miss and not able to watch from 9 to 10 every day, they're posted. They're kept up there, so you can catch it later on in the day if you miss it live. So that's it for us from EliteSportsBetting.com. This is the opening line on June 30th. Couple plays for Frank and I, more plays from the rest of the crew at EliteSportsBetting.com. So head over there, hit the subscribe. We got all sports, every sport going as we wind down summer, heading towards football season. That's only 2 months away. As we are. One last comment. Oh, thanks for tuning in, Jeffrey. Appreciate you.
You're welcome.
But yeah, that's it for us. We will see you guys tomorrow. We'll be back opening line, breaking down the MLB slate for Thursday. Guys, have a good day.